I'm on a mission. Yes, on a mission to find how people keep well. What does it really mean to keep well? We all know why we have to keep well, don't we? How do you keep well? Today's fast-paced world means we often get caught up with the daily grind. We struggle to develop or maintain practices that help to maintain our well-being. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed by the constant demands and pressure. It's so easy to get distracted, isn't it, and end up doing exactly what we know we shouldn't be doing. Having easy to digest information to guide and remind you to keep well can make a world of difference. Consider me to be your dedicated well-being partner, cheering you to achieve big dreams and goals, which is only possible by keeping yourself well, living a happy, healthy, and meaningful life. Hello, and welcome once again to How Do You Keep Well? The podcast for health-conscious women who want to understand how best to look after themselves in midlife and how to take action every day. It's one thing to know what to do, but it's another thing to actually take action. So today I will be exploring with my guests how midlife women can move more, eat better, and feel amazing without shame or guilt or restriction. So today, please welcome with me Lillian. Lillian will be introducing herself shortly, but honestly, the first time I met her, it was like a magnetic attraction. I can't explain it. There's just so much to do. There's just so much about Lillian. I felt like I couldn't get enough of her the first day we met. And I wish I lived closer to you, Lillian, so that I could be coming to your classes. But I'll let you introduce yourself, Lillian, in more detail. Please tell us your background, your story, your philosophy about fitness, which I think is incredible, and also who you help.
Thank you, Jai. And yes, the feeling was mutual as well. Yes, there was that magnetic attraction when we saw each other. And I was like, oh, who's this woman? I must get to find out more about her. So thank you for having me on your podcast. So I'm Lillian Lartey. I'm a de-stress and wellness coach and holistic fitness trainer. I've been in the health wellness industry for 25 years this year.
Wow.
So I'm quietly celebrating 25 years. But it seems like it was just yesterday that I started in the industry. I love everything to do with health and well-being, the human body, how it works, why it breaks down, how to keep it fit and well. It's been my love for the past 25 years, and I'm sure it will continue to be my love for the next 25 years. I help now at the moment, I help midlife women to be healthy, fit and strong in their mind and their bodies, eliminate stress and burnout so that they can show up alert, calm, energized and confident. And at first I started in my career working at health clubs, gyms, and I was teaching aerobic classes. I was teaching aqua, spin, all those type of classes, as well as being a personal trainer to many stressed out, high achieving men and women. From there, I realized, these people are, they're always stressed. And even though they work out and exercise, there was something that they were missing in terms of health and well-being, in terms of balance. They were constantly working. And even though they took holidays, there was this high level of stress that seemed to be, associated with them. With that, I decided I'm going to go into massage because, again, I loved everything to do with the human body, but I also wanted to help my clients relax. But also I wanted to help my clients with injuries and preventing injuries, things like that. I combined the massage therapy, remedial massage therapy, alongside the personal training and alongside the teaching the classes as well. So that combination served really well with my clients. And so I continued on this path of helping men and women. And I managed to grow my business to a place where I had 3 massage clinics in London. Wow. And these were associated with gyms. So they were within gyms. And I also had a number of personal training clients that I was teaching throughout the week and a number of classes. I was in high demand. And it was good. I loved what I did, but I was working 12 plus hour days, Dr. J.
Mm.
My days would start 6 a.m. in the morning, sometimes going to teach clients, and I would finish sometimes 9 p.m. at night.
Wow, that's a
Now,
long day.
it's a very long day,
Mm.
and it was a case of you come home, have something to eat quickly, and then you're out the door, or you're constantly out. So you're sitting in your car, or you're sitting somewhere, eating, rushing, on the phone, speaking to clients, treating clients, teaching, all sorts of things. But when you're young, you love it because you've got the energy.
Definitely. I definitely can concur with that.
And within that, getting to know my clients, they would tell me certain things about what was going on with their work, what's going on with their lifestyle. And I thought, I'd really love to do some coaching to help my client shift out of the mindset blocks that they're holding. So I went off and I got qualified in 2005 as a personal development coach.
Wow.
And with that, I was able to coach my clients as well.
An all-in-one service. What would
exactly.
want that?
I was kind of like a one-stop shop.
Yes.
which really helped my clients. So when I was massaging them, I was coach. When I was teaching them with personal fitness training, I was coaching them as well. So
amazing.
they loved it.
Amazing.
But over time, I noticed that my energy levels started to dwindle. They started to go down, and I just thought, this is unusual for me. This was in my late 30s. And I found myself feeling exhausted. And I thought, no, this is not right. So I would think, okay, maybe I'm not training enough, looking after myself, looking at my own self-care. But I was like, I'm doing my self-care. I'm training. I'm eating what I thought I was eating well. The only problem was I wasn't getting enough sleep. And what I came to realize was my stress levels were very high. I thought I was someone that I didn't have any stress. No stress. No. I'm good.
You're happy with your work. You're feeling
happy with my
you're
work.
satisfied.
Yes. But I was like, okay. And I remembered early in my industry, as I was qualifying, one of the things that our teachers taught us was be careful you don't burn out. And it was one of those words that was whispered in the industry that, oh, did you hear about such and such? They burn out. Did you hear about such and such? They have to stop teaching because they burn out. And I was like, nah, that's never going to happen to me. I'm strong. Invincible. And I was like, burn out. I was like, no, that's not me. So anyway, I carried on. But Dr. Jai, I got to a point where I felt like I was on this treadmill. I kept going. And I never took any breaks. I hardly had any holiday.
Oh, my word.
And one day I spoke with a colleague on the phone and she was feeling the same. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I said, I don't know whether it's the weather or I said, I don't know what it is. But I just feel like I'm on this constant treadmill and, I can't afford to stop because when you're self-employed, you're kind of thinking, I've got to bring the money in, got to pay the bills, things like that. And then one day I was just so exhausted. I couldn't get out of bed.
Oh my goodness. That must have been a shock to your system.
It was a big shock, Dr. Jai. And it felt like I had flu. So I was like, oh, my body was really achy and I struggled to get out of bed. And then when I got up, my head was just pounding and I struggled to get to the bathroom. And I thought, no, it took a lot for me to really get ill. So I thought there's something not right here. So I rang my group exercise coordinator and said, sorry, I can't come in, can't teach classes.
I can imagine they're surprised, like, Lillian, what's happening?
Oh, I was super reliable, Dr. Jai. I was always there for class and I was even covering other people's classes, and I had to cancel everything that week. And so I just took time out, made sure that I rested and then sort of got back onto that treadmill to get back into work mode. But I wasn't feeling the same. My energy levels just weren't the same.
Dropped. Something changed.
I would do things like make sure I have lots of sugar, drink these energy drinks and, to keep my energy levels high. But it didn't feel the same. But sadly, eventually, when it came to, and at this poignant point, I was age 40, I realized that I'd burnt out. The
Yeah.
only way I realized was because I had gone on a course, and this course was about weight loss. So I thought, oh, I'll go on this course for my clients, because they always talk about needing to lose weight.
Mm.
And one of the components on that course was about stress. So I was like, oh yeah, my clients are always stressed. So I paid particular attention to that.
Yeah.
And as this coach was going through all the ailments and the side effects of stress, I started to realize that some of these
That was
effects
it.
I was experiencing
Mm.
was, oh my goodness, this seems familiar.
The penny dropped.
Oh my goodness, it was going through, low energy levels,
Mm.
exhaustion, irritability, gaining weight around the middle, feeling fatigue, feeling like, flu-like symptoms, headaches,
That was like a tick
tension.
box. That was
Oh,
ticking all the boxes.
Dr. Jai, it was tick, 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 tick. And then at the bottom in these big, bold letters was burnout. I was like, oh my goodness.
Mm.
No.
Mm. Must have been such an enlightening, eye-awakening moment for you completely. Even though it
Dr.
was meant to
Jai,
be for your clients, you realized that was you.
it was for me. And so I was like, no. And so he went on to talk about the effects of burnout, becoming disillusioned, feeling, really low self-esteem, low
Lost.
confidence. And I was like, oh my, and that was me, because I was starting to feel disillusioned with the industry, because there were certain little things that were starting to irritate me. And I was like, this is not like me at all. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I spoke to the coach afterwards, and he said, yeah, he said, I suffered with burnout myself. He said, and this is what I did. I started to pivot my business. So I took note of what he was saying, but it took me a good 3 to 6 months, because I was in denial,
Yes. Yes.
So I was like, oh, and then eventually again, I got to this, I can only describe it as a wall. I hit the wall, Dr. Jai. And it was like, I rang my coordinator, and she said, you know what, Lillian? She said, I've been looking at your numbers, and your numbers have been dwindling. And I've been even asking myself, what's going on with Lillian? And I've been meaning to have a meeting with you. So I told her, and she said, you know what? She says, you need to decide what you want to do going forwards, because it does sound like you've burnt out. And I was so, so sad, because I thought, Dr. Jai, it would never happen to me,
See, I think that's what many people experience, that it's them, not me, because I'm taking all the right steps.
Yes. Yeah. So eventually I had to cut away my classes. I had to end those classes. And the coordinator, she was so sad, And I said, I have to admit that I am burnt out. So I had to say bye-bye to those. I had to say bye-bye to most of my personal training clients as well. And I had to stop 2 of my massage clinics.
Wow.
And I had to make the decision, do I continue in this industry, or do I go and get a job in Tesco's?
Well, that must have been such a life-changing moment for you.
Oh, Dr. Jai, I was exhausted. I was so exhausted, and I never admitted it to anybody. Never.
That's what I did. Silence we talk about, you, because of the shame and the guilt that comes with it. A lot of
shame, guilt, because I thought, here I am thinking I'm the epitome of health and fitness.
Oh God.
I'm doing things incorrectly. And then I realized these 12 plus hour days that I was working, there's no way I would say to my clients, oh yeah, go and do 15 classes a week. Oh yeah, go and work out for 15 hours a week. No way would I advise that to a client. But here I was doing that. And I said, no, something needs to change. Something is not right here. So I had a lot of time for reflection, and I looked at what my colleagues were doing, how they were working, how they were feeling, how they were looking, and also the people that would come to me for massage as well, totally exhausted, those who were burnt out from their jobs. And so it was like I was starting to put pieces of the puzzle together. So I said, okay, I need to pivot my business. And I focused on what my coach was doing, and he was focused on nutrition. So I said, you know what? I need to follow the protocol in order to heal myself. So I went on his protocol to heal myself, and I was asking him questions. So how did you recover from burnout? And he was saying, Lillian, this is what I did. So I was like, okay, let me follow this protocol. Within 2 weeks, my energy levels went back up.
Amazing.
I started to feel myself again, Dr. Jai. And I was like, wow, there's something in this.
Yeah.
So what is it that I've done to get myself back on track? So I started to tell my clients who were stressed about this, and they were like, Lillian, tell me more. And then I started to create a new protocol. So I started to focus on nutrition and helping my clients with rest and de-stressing and breathing and comfort massages, stretching, things like that. And then it was in 2016 that sadly my dad passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And even though I said, okay, I'll take some time out, I'll carry on with my work, I realized that I was carrying the grief inside my body. And in 2017, I had been working for a company, a coaching company, and they were doing some changes. So I said, no, it doesn't align with my values. So I left that. And I was in this sort of plateau where I didn't know who I was, what I was doing.
Wow.
And it just felt like, oh my goodness. And I'm a Christian, so I had to spend lots of time seeking the face of God and saying, God, what is it that you've called me to do? Because I feel like I'm in this place of no man's land.
Yeah. Completely lost. Everything you knew, everything that was a structure, that was a routine around you was just crumbling before your very eyes.
Oh, Dr. Jai, I felt like someone had come and pulled the plug and said, Lillian, that's it. Stop.
What? That was...
And I was, and my dad had gone. So, I'd lost this kind of icon, of, what do I do? And there's no one else I could sort of turn to. And in 2018, I was doing some work around, because when I was younger, I'd suffered a lot with racism. And interestingly, the effects of that started to come up to the surface. And it was as if the Lord was leading me to deal with it.
Heal completely.
Heal from this. And in October 2018, I just felt like how I felt when I was age 40. So that was back in 2010, 2011. I had those same symptoms come up again, those symptoms of burnout. But this felt worse. I had breathlessness. It was like my dizziness. I couldn't see. I thought, what is happening here?
Again.
To cut a long story short, in November, I felt very unwell. I said to my mum, I feel unwell. I think I need to go to A&E. And it takes a lot for me to say that. Went to A&E. Now, normally, if I was taking my blood pressure on any normal day, it would be about 130, 135 over 80.
Yeah.
When I went to the hospital and they checked me in, it was 190 over 90.
Wow.
190 over 90.
That makes so much sense. When you were talking about holding it all in, especially with the grief and everything else, that obviously was not just a normal holding it in. Your blood pressure, your blood vessels were holding that pressure in.
Yes.
Wow, that's so high.
And I was experiencing severe chest pains. It felt like my heart was coming out my chest, severe headache. My legs felt like jelly and were tingling. I felt dizzy. I tell you, when they were checking me, everything came back normal.
Apart from your blood pressure, perhaps.
Yeah. I said, but they could see there was something not right. So they said, okay, let's give your blood pressure a check before we finally admit you in. When the final check was 201 over 100.
What? That's high.
It was alarming. That's all I can say.
And this is somebody who knows so much about the body. Sometimes as a health giver or as a healthcare personnel yourself, the risks of having such a high blood pressure. I can't imagine how petrified you must have been when you saw your blood pressure that high.
It was scary. Even the nurse was looking at me. She was asking me questions. I said, all I could say was, I don't know. I said, I don't know. So they mixed me in, and I had hypothyroidism. I had severe anemia, chronic anemia. They had to pump me with ferritin, and my blood pressure was severely high as well. And when they asked me, oh, what is it that you do, Miss Lartey? And I told them, I mean, the consultants were looking at me like, you're a health and fitness
Seriously?
advisor. You're a coach.
Seriously?
So why is this happening to you? You know? So the only thing I could do was come home and rest.
Yeah.
And then from there, from learning how to rest, I learned how to breathe. The Lord gave me this idea of helping people to pause and breathe.
Amazing. We're going to talk a bit about that in a minute, but it's everything you said so far kind of embodies our conversation today. So you were learning to pause to breathe.
Pause and breathe for myself, to heal for myself. And it was from that I learned how to heal from the racism, why I work. And there's a connection with that and my work ethic. Because if you remember, I said I worked 12+ hour days. I felt like I was on this constant treadmill. Now, it wasn't because of the fact that I was self-employed. There were stories that I was living up to. When I was younger, I was always told, you can't do this because you're Black. You must stick up for yourself because you're Black. You have to be the strong one because you're Black.
You have to work extra hard.
Because you're Black. Yeah, you have to prove yourself because you're Black. These were the stories that were in my mind. So as I was constantly working, this was what is in my head. Oh, I have to show that I can work the best because I'm Black. So that drove me into the ground. It drove me into burnout. It drove me into a stressful place. So when I had this place to pause and breathe and to heal, I had to look at my work ethic, not feeling good enough. That was the number one thing that was always at the forefront of my mind. You know, I'm not feeling good enough, so I must work doubly hard. You know, this person has said this about me, so I must work doubly hard.
Must prove them wrong.
Yes, and I won't be accepted in this space. So I must show myself to be like this. So I had to change all of that around and accept me and really get back to the question of who am I? Who is it that God has made me to be? Forget what the industry says. Forget what, I experienced when I was younger. Who am I? Who am I, Lillian Lartey?
Wow.
And I had to really get down to the root of that. And as I started to build on top of that and renew my values and see what God was saying about me, I was in such a healthier place. But so now I'm back teaching classes. I'm back, helping people to be healthy, fit and strong, but from a place of wellness. And we'll speak more about that as we go.
Oh my goodness. I think we can drop the mic now. Like the mic drop because I feel so full. That's the only way I can, there's something about sharing your story, and we would round up in a moment for this next part of the series. But there's something about sharing your story, and you can begin to pick all the gems, for yourself. And that's why you could, listening to the story of that coach, you could learn from it because he went deep down into his own experience, and he didn't feel like he was a superhuman telling you what this paper and this article and this research said, but it came down to what he felt. And that is what we call connection. When you connect to your human experiences and you teach from a place of connection, it makes so much difference. Now, one thing that you mentioned, which I'm going to go a bit more, so many things you mentioned, what happens with stress, what happens with diet, what happens to your mind, especially your mindset. You set your mind in a particular way, and then you can set that mind free again. What happens, how you can navigate some mind-body experiences. Those are what we will be talking about. And my viewers, I'm hoping that you can see what the layers can do over midlife. I always talk about midlife being a time where there's an accumulation of stress. over a long period, over maybe 2 decades. For many women, obviously, some may have children, some may not, but that accumulation of stress begins to show at some point, and it begins to show usually around midlife. And stress can come from physiological stress, kind of you doing so much or dieting so much or exercising so much, to psychological stress, the stress that you have carried from childhood to maybe motherhood and, looking after family, to grief, and how this can all have an impact on your hormones. Because some of what you said, some people may think, oh, I'm sure that was menopause. Wasn't that menopause? But if you're true to yourself, you actually realize that apart from menopause playing its role, there was something to do about my lifestyle, which I needed to move around. So I would want us to round up there for now. And then we will come back again to the part 2 of this series, which we're going to go into some key points Coach Lillian talked about, if that's okay. So thank you everyone for listening, but stay tuned for part 2 of this series with Lillian. Thank you very much. Bye.